This is Jason Verney's podcast. I am Jason Verney. Now, this podcast, I'm going to talk about a few films that I saw last week. It was actually quite an extraordinary week, and I mean that in the various ways that extraordinary is meant. I caught, first of all, I saw a film every day, Monday the 14th through to Thursday the 17th, get my facts right there, get my days right. And not only was it a film every night, so 4 consecutive nights I saw a different film. 3 of those were Korean films, which is quite, unusual and extraordinary in itself to have that many films playing. And I don't mean these are not films I've watched on a DVD. These are films most of my films I see in the cinema, or occasionally they might get screeners or something. But this was 4 films in a row, and I wanted to talk about the last. Well, I'll talk briefly about all of them, but I wanted to talk about the last one I saw. So on Monday, the first film I saw was the one I was looking forward to the most last week, and I've been looking forward to it ever since it was announced. It's the film, as the English title is, A Taxi Driver. Obviously it's not Taxi Driver. This is a Korean film. This the first one I saw last week, and it's I wanted to see it because I've been to Gwangju twice for a start, and it has a lot of recent history, recent politics, and issues that are still sort of resounding in Korea today. But also, it's about Gwangju, and having been there twice and been there just a matter of weeks ago, I think less than 2 months ago, roughly, when I was there last. I was filming on Jeju, but I then went to Gwangju, Busan, Seoul, briefly to Mokpo. And so it was really important that I saw that. I mean, it was a I didn't know if it would live up to my expectations, but I didn't really care, because it was covering the subject matter that I wanted to see something about, even though there's other films out there regarding that. So I won't go into that too much now. That will be in another podcast. I hope to review it. I was so set on reviewing it after I'd seen it that night, but soon Tuesday came around and I was off to see another film. This was the non-Korean film of the week. So in other words, I don't mean it was my film of the week. It was just the only one that wasn't a Korean film, and that was Dunkirk. Everyone's raving about it. I only saw it because I got a special way to attend a screening. My local tricycle cinema, a theatre and cinema, they had these special deals where you can see certain films, and I know them there. And but Dunkirk, I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's good in its. I mean, I'm not a war film fan, but I mean, ironically, these 4 films that I saw in sort of 4 days running, are all to do with conflicts. Obviously, Dunkirk, we know what that's regarding the war, and although I could have enjoyed it, I wasn't really in the mood. Perhaps the effects of going for a meal and having a couple of sojus and beer after the Korean film A Taxi Driver on the Monday. Perhaps I just wasn't into it. As I'd been working on something all day, and maybe I just got a bit confused with the story. And I know that Christopher Nolan is known well for mixing things up, but it's not exactly difficult to follow. But I just hadn't clicked, and I was too tired to take it in. So maybe I'll see Dunkirk again, but I didn't think it was necessary. But I think I should, just to see what everyone's remarking about it. The third film on Wednesday was Battleship Island. Now this is a film regarding a sort of kind of an island where it was an island when it was the time of the Japanese-Korean sort of, again, I'll just call it a conflict. I don't want to go into it too much, but Koreans were held captive there. The film itself is by a very famous director. I've actually interviewed him as part of a sort of a group interview a couple of years ago. If you go to minimovie.com, you can find some interviews of mine, and you'll see ones. You should be able to find ones involving that, and if not, other websites that I'm affiliated with, parts of our London Asian Film Society that I'm a co-founder of. Basically, you know, the director is a good director. He's made lots of sort of high power, sort of high profile films, big budget films, and you know, this one maybe not has been as popular in Korea, but CJ have definitely been. It's an important subject matter, and it covers, you know, important subjects. And I think CJ Entertainment have been putting it in a hell of a lot of cinemas in South Korea, which is, you know, it's good that they want people to see the subject matter. It's a bit too glossy, a bit too overpowering in ways, and I think what I'm saying about CJ is that they've you could say they've used that tactic. A lot of cinemas use, even in this country, and big corporations, or chaebols as they might be known in Korea, where they insist on having it in so many screens, so it kind of has the monopoly, if you like, on all the theatres and cinemas at the time. So there's been a bit of hoo-ha about it from some of my film fanatic friends and film reviews and film reviewers over in South Korea. So anyway, that was Wednesday. That was the second Korean film out of the 3 films I'd seen, and then came the 4th film. I wasn't even sure if I would see this. They're the KCC, the Korean Cultural Centre, and it's sort of in association, you could say, with the London Korean Film Festival. They have these screenings throughout the year. I should probably backtrack a bit here. The Monday's one, A Taxi Driver, it was a teaser screening for the London Korean Film Festival, which is coming up in a couple of months' time. So these are teaser screenings, even though the films won't be shown. I've mentioned this in other podcasts. There's just a flavour, or to get people into the spirit of the festival before it actually is upon us. But they've always, most of them I think have been premieres. This was a European premiere that I was just talking about, the one on Monday, A Taxi Driver. But this one on Thursday, the 4th and final film of the week that I saw, was they basically got another season of films at the Korean Cultural Centre as well. So yeah, it was. This is in association with Birkbeck, sort of university Birkbeck. I mean, people who live in London probably know this. You know, there's SOAS, Birkbeck, and what have you. One of their other seasons was Chills and Thrills, which I mentioned, with the Colette Balmain, one of the co-founders of the London Asian Film Society. It was a sort of Chills and Thrills season she did, and this one is a different one. There was one also about immigration. And I wasn't going to see this film. I know one or two of the films that the KCC is currently screening can be found, or have screened, can be found on the Korean Archive official YouTube channel. So, and I'm, you know, without kind of, a lot of those films are quite unique and quite sort of specialised, maybe, or they're older films. There's a lot of Imquantech films on there. And I knew this one wasn't, and so I went to the Korean Cultural Centre on Thursday night, and this film was called, I should probably tell you what it was called. This one is Garak. I want to get this right, because I want to say it in English as well as in Korean if I can. It's Garak Market Revolution, and the Korean title is, here we go, Jankiwang Garakjang Revolution. So basically revolution. As you know, some Korean words are very much, you might know some Korean words are very similar. They're taken, the romanization is taken from, or the pronunciation is taken from the English words. So now this film, I wasn't too sure. I wasn't even sure if it would be a revolution one as such. It does involve conflicts. but it wasn't. It just seemed, even from the picture itself, the poster which was on the, I guess it's on the emails I get from the Korean Cultural Centre, is on other websites like LondonKoreanLinks.net, which is Philip Goman's brilliant website of Korean events and places in London. I saw the picture, and that alone didn't tell me much, but it also intrigued me enough to want to go and see it. And I knew I couldn't actually see it anywhere else. And not only that, it was actually a 2017 film, and believe it or not, I mean, that Korean Cultural Centre, they do have a lot of old films as well, good old films, or a couple of years old, and dramas and comedies. And this was this year, but I mean, I don't necessarily go for the new films in particular, but that was quite interesting to hear. I think it actually premiered. I mean, I guess this was kind of the UK premiere. I'm not too sure. I don't think it's been shown anywhere else. But it was. I think it was. It was the world premiere was at Jeonju Film Festival, which I didn't get a chance to go to this year. I have been before. It was in May, I think, or April or May this year. Lost track a bit of that festival this year. But this particular film, it's. I mean, you could. How can I put this? I mean, you could say this is a political comedy. It was definitely much more of a comedy than politics, but it was a. I mean, if I'm going to compare it to, let's say, A Taxi Driver, which was on Monday, that was essentially a comedy, which was really good how they did that, because it was about the uprising as well in Gwangju and the riots, and so they managed to mix it well. But anyway, and I don't want to talk about that too much in this particular podcast, because I'd like to do a little one about that film itself. But with Garak Market Revolution, it mixes, as a lot of Korean films do, they mix they mix comedy with, drama, darkness, a bit of sort of conflict, if you like, and sometimes as I've mentioned, violent death, but this managed to be funny as well as kind of have lots of important messages, and I'm sure you can tell that was the director's intention. I believe so. Anyway, I mean, it was too much of a coincidence not to be that. I guess he must have stuck to his guns. No war pun intended there with guns, but yeah, I guess it was a political comedy. But I'd probably go after I saw it, I thought, wow, this is probably the best film out of the four I'd seen that last week. I mean, there was Dunkirk, and of course I meant to be raving about that and whatever, because everyone seems to be, but that's deliberately what I don't do. And maybe I felt a bit like after I'd seen the film Tony Erdmann in the cinemas. I kind of loved it because I wasn't expecting much. So maybe this film I loved because I wasn't expecting much as well. So perhaps it was even my favourite film of the four that I saw last week. The main character in the film, his name was Dusu, or is Dusu. I like the fact that his chosen job was what made him happy. Well, kind of that's the reason, I suppose. And this is also explained a little bit in an amusing and clever little montage that says why he's chosen that job. And not following suit. Again, I was going to throw a pun there by working in an office, so not a collar job, if you like, or whatever they say. Not following suit, not working in an office job, which I know I used to work in an office, and it's a different thing that I do these days. But so that was interesting. That was funny. I did also notice in the first scene, I think, when he was carrying some stuff in the little market. It reminded me of a little marketplace area that I went to in Jeju just a few weeks ago. Jeju City, actually, in there. But anyway, I did notice that there was some equipment, some mechanical equipment that he was pushing. This is before I knew the character's name, I think, that was Dusu. But of course, that was by one of the big conglomerates or companies called Doosan. So I did later sort of think that was a amusing, interesting connection, even if only in my brain and no one else's. The film also centres, it doesn't at first, I suppose, but definitely the second second and thirds of the film, it does revolve around jangi, which is the kind of Korean chess. And there's some very funny scenes later on with that. There's also scenes where the main character is prompted or provoked to bet his... the older guy was betting his daughter on the game, and that was just a... I mean, to see the film itself, you can see how that fits in with it. I don't want to give anything away. I never do with my reviews, but I just thought that was quite. It's quite amusing that the film it never sort of lets up with the humour. Maybe it does a little bit towards the end, or it changes its speed and its theme and its style, but it's a good film. And it also reminded me, because I often go to the monthly protest in the National Gallery with the activists who for so while, and often for the Comfort Women cause. And when I see and even when I was in Seoul recently, and I did a speech at the Japanese embassy, outside the Japanese embassy, and the girl that I met there that was very much kind of I don't know if she actually was protesting so much, but she was very protesting, or at least pro the causes. And there's a lot of that in this country at the moment as well, but you have to admire the dedication. And in this particular film, where the main character Dusu, he kind of, I guess, has a thing for this girl who is a bit like that. Whether he knew that when he meets her or not is a different matter, but it's it did make me think of that. But this film is, as I say, I would say it's kind of a political comedy, but it goes from one happy scene to another bad subject matter. I mean, for example, our main character is being harassed by his boss. He's the same guy that challenges his to the game of chess with the daughter later on. He's being harassed on a kind of daily basis by his boss. By the way, Dusu works nights in this market. That's what this is. That's why that's half the reason why he's chosen it. But while he's being harassed by the boss, and his sister later on, and I know I don't like to give too much away, but this is an important thing. His sister is being, you could say, sexually harassed by her boss, and this isn't revealed till later on. And it's it's an important thing because it's happening. It does happen in the UK, of course, but I mean, sexual harassment in the workplace, and also the way that the court case was briefly shown, that she had to she had to go through to appeal, or at least say that she had been harassed or been touched or something. Even that was a political statement showing that you won't win against these big corporations, and there was mention of her putting something on the internet about that company, like sort of defacing it, or what's the word? Degrading the company, playing, not giving the company a good name, saying that that's a bad thing about the internet. But there was other stuff in the film which showed the funny side of the internet. There's one character that's always on his phone, and so that's making it a problem. Perhaps that was making a statement as well about modern day life. So it's an internet addicted young guy. Could be showing Korea's addiction to technology, or that many people are being watched or surveillanced. Perhaps that's a word. I'm not sure. I guess it is. But so I mean, there was the internet being mentioned because she posted something on the internet at the time of her stating what the company was doing to her. There was a scene where she gets she does get some compensation. I won't go into that in too much detail. I think I've rambled on a little bit too much about that little scene or scenes. But she offers to give the money to her brother, and it's really touching. And she almost looks like she might, do something terrible, like end her life or something. But it's touching because she says, "You can have this. This is all. You know, it's almost like it's nothing to me, and what you're doing means more to what Dusu is doing means more to her, that he's doing something." I don't know, it could be read in different ways. And you know, I think the film, talking about money, I think the film also does you know, show bribery or reference to bribery in one or two ways. There's some funny dream sequences in the film. Not to mention the one at the not just the one at the beginning where, you know, it wasn't a dream sequence. It's more of an explanation of why he chose that work. But the dream sequences are quite funny, yeah. And there's even a couple of amusing scenes where quotes from films are used. Like, well, I think it's Dusu's friend who mentions this. I might be getting confused, but incidentally, his friend in the film is actually the writer and director of the film, who, you know, he features in quite a lot of scenes in this. Yeah, he quotes some lines from Old Boy, so it's kind of I guess is a nod to the other films there. Obviously, there's a nod to other films there. And I did mention that I'm trying to sort of mix this up a bit here with the emotional stuff as well as the funny stuff and the important stuff. I mean, there was talking about politics earlier. There was a deliberate long shot of the King Sejong, the statue in Gwanghwamun Square. I can never say that place right. But where you really obviously see the Sewol Memorial with the giant ribbon. And the shot stays there for quite a while, and I think that was intentional to perhaps demonstrate the state of not just Korea. And I don't mean this in a negative way. Perhaps, or maybe. I mean, the film was made in February, so it's difficult to say really. But either way, I think it was trying to make a statement of what can happen in the world, and you know, with corporations, or not even perhaps with just people's lives. You know, loss of lives, but also hope. And it did make me wonder that, you know, maybe some other issues in this film didn't really get the film the funding they wanted. Perhaps there were some issues with, you know, touching on subjects that they shouldn't have done, or they weren't meant to by big corporations, and maybe that's why it didn't get promoted as well. Maybe it did in Korea. I wasn't aware of this film as much as you know, I probably should have been. But also, if I was thinking to myself, if it didn't have much of a budget, that might explain why things like the subtitles. Now, I'm not going to be picky about subtitles, and believe me, I've seen a lot of foreign films, not just Korean ones, but you know, where the subtitles are incorrect. But this was almost every 2 or 3 dialogue boxes, every other person speaking, there was something incorrect. I mean, I do have a little thing about, you know, the American words being used in subtitles, and that happens every day now. I've kind of got used to that, but even this one, there was a lot of errors. Almost it could have been subtitles from 10, 15 years ago. And so I wondered if there was, or maybe the film was, you know, rushed and put together, and maybe the director had to do things in a certain way. So it was just something I picked up on. I'm not sure what else I really want to say about the film, but it's really funny. There's some touching scenes. I suppose some scenes are reminiscent to me because I've go to Korea quite a bit, sitting outside, and someone's. I mean, I haven't really seen people breaking down in tears that much, but I mean, you see it in a lot of Korean films. A girl breaking down in tears, and normally after they've been drinking as well. But it was a funny scene where this girl who Dusu kind of likes, but he's also sitting talking to the girl he also likes who does all the political stuff. She's actually got to know him from some embarrassing stage performance he did. So, you know. Also, I will mention as well that the film that preceded this on the same night at the KCC was a film called A Tent. Tent, you know, like a canopy, and that that could have almost been. I thought it was at some point. I actually thought they were actually interlinked, or there was a character that was from one mentioned, but from the first film mentioned in the second film. But I don't think that was any connection at all. But it did also remind me there's tents everywhere in South Korea, and I don't. There's whether it's restaurant tents or eating places, but there's also, I mean, even outside where the Comfort Woman statue is at Japanese embassy, there's a tent. There's often a tent there now where they're doing a sit-in, and that happens here. With that happens in the UK with the Occupy movement and stuff and other things like that. But this was even I saw it in not my last trip to Gwangju, but the one before. So just at the end of last year, which was my first trip to Gwangju. There was a big tent there because they're having this big political. There's a lot of politics going on there now about. I guess they want to promote Gwangju as a place to go, but they also want to remember what happened in the 80s and the uprising. So there's a tent, and you can sign petitions and what have you. But anyway, so that was the film I wanted to talk mostly about. The fourth one I saw, the Garak Market Revolution. It's a great film if you do get a chance to see it. I did look on YouTube to see the trailers after the film had been on. I think I like to watch trailers afterwards as opposed to before. Sometimes I do, but and it looks like there's some stuff that was perhaps used for Jeonju or just used for the film making. There was, I think it's the director and the main character rehearsing scenes or playing out some other scenes on a rooftop in Korea. Unfortunately, I can't understand it. My Korean is only quite small, having only done 2 terms at the Korean Cultural Centre a few years ago. But I do learn more every now and again. But yeah, I'm rambling a bit, so I'm going to go back to just mention that the Korean Cultural Centre, their website, which has not just films, not just these weekly films that are on now, other events, music, craft, literature, concerts, all those kind of things, and most of the time they're free as well. You can go to www.kccuk.org.uk. That will take you there, and you can also go to, if you want to know more about the London Korean Film Festival that's coming up. Even though both this information about the London Korean Film Festival will be on that website I just mentioned, but also it will be on the one that's set up for the film festival every year in particular, which is koreanfilm.co.uk. Sorry, it's www.koreanfilm.co.uk. So yeah, it was quite an eventful week, film-wise, cinematically wise. I did find it interesting that all this started on the 14th of August, Monday the 14th of August, because I mean the 14th, as some of my friends will know, plays a part in the documentary that I started years ago that I haven't finished yet. Partly because I got involved with other projects. Like at the moment I'm editing a project that I was commissioned to go to Korea, film a Finland/Korea cultural exchange week in different venues, like the KBS building and National Hall and other things in Jeju, and I'm editing that now. So that's taken up all my time, a lot of my time. And not only that, I've also got some art, some video art on display. I might as well plug this in Kingston Museum. If you live or go to Kingston, it's actually almost a 3-month exhibition. It started beginning of July, which is what I was doing. I've been doing it for months. It's a video art piece, and I'm very I say I'm proud of it. I'll let you be the judge of what you think of it. But it's still got until the end of September, the 30th of September. If you want to go and visit the art exhibition, it's there's a load of artists. It's regarding Korea and UK, both of those, then and now, and basically four English artists, myself and 3 others, and 10 Korean artists are doing, basically the four English ones are doing their interpretation of Korea then and now, but on a certain subject, a particular subject, and also the Korean artists have done something into their interpretation of England, UK, London, whatever, you name it, even Brexit. There's something there about Brexit or the European conversation, if you like, speech marks there. And not only that, there's other stuff by the Hand Collection that's in the same building, and there's also up the stairs. There's some lovely pictures of some costumes from the sort of a certain era in Korea. It's a really, I mean, I've been down a couple of times already, partly because there's one or two friends that wanted to see it, and I said I'd go along with them. But also, in the opening evening where we had Haelim Kim, the Taegeum player, she sort of opened it with her music, and I think the ambassador was there and all this. But yeah, it's an exhibition that I just wish I could get there more often, not just to see my art, to see the other art that's really amazing as well. And also the museum itself's got some really good stuff in it. Anyway, so I'm going to leave it there. I really enjoyed that. Thanks to the Korean Cultural Centre especially, there's these two things have been due to them and the London Korean Film Festival. Basically, the film on Monday last week, A Taxi Driver, and the film on Thursday, the Garak Market Revolution. The films, thanks to them, I get to see these films, and you can too. I mean, you just have to book. It's often free. You just have to book online or send them an email, and that's it. So I'll hopefully be back with another podcast regarding a film run, or about Korea, or about another film, or about my trips to Korea. And I will speak to you all very soon. Okay, adios.